Extreme weather due to climate change is already causing havoc across the globe, including flooding in the UK and costing lives in some of the poorest countries. If elected, will you promise to back action to meet our UK and international climate change commitments, back renewable energy, and ban fracking? So quite a lot of areas to cover there, candidates, please. Can we start with Tessa?
Yes. Yes, I am committed, and my party are committed to banning fracking, and I think that's of particular interest here in Burnham-on-Sea, because the coast is an area where there are licence areas, and the Conservatives have now loosened up the arrangements so that fracking exploration can take place without all of the structures that used to prevent that and going through the main planning system. So it's difficult for local people to change those arrangements. So I think it's really important that you do have somebody who actually stops the idea of fracking. I've been to see fracking wells, I've been to see exploration wells, and they are not attractive. You do not want them in an area like this. The other thing, of course, that's crucial is that fracking has an impact perhaps on the water, and this county depends entirely on its water. We grow food, we have an apple crop, and all of this it's critical that we make sure that we have the integrity of our water supply is maintained. And I think it's a desperately bad move. So if I ask about, yes, climate change, I believe in climate change. I think there are things that we can do to change the rate at which we destroy our world, which is exactly what we're doing. I think we should be much more self-sustaining in our ways of making energy, and it was only last Friday that 26%, I think, of the UK's energy was created through renewable sources. We can have offshore wind, we can have solar, there are any number of things we should be doing with tidal and wave power, and certainly I'm proud to have been somebody who took Swansea Tidal Lagoon Limited to meet both the Business Secretary, the Energy Secretary, and then eventually George Osborne, to try and make that move along. But that needed political will as well, and Mr Osborne was not having any of it at that time. So I think probably I would just finish, if I may, by saying that the most important thing we can do, and one of the things my party is committed to, is making sure we have some sort of proper retrospective insulation programme. One of the problems with insulation is that for people like my parents, their loft was so full of stuff after 40 years of living in a home, there was absolutely no way, firstly, that they could get into the loft to clear it, and secondly, that they wanted to have it all packed back up again. And I think there are a number of things we can do to make sure that we do insulate our homes. A lot of the homes are hard to heat in this area, and I certainly was somebody who, when I was sat on the Energy Bill Committee, was hugely in favour of making sure that we gradually upgrade all of our rental properties, because there are an enormous number of rental properties in this area where the conditions are really very poor. People live in damp surroundings, and all of these things can be sorted out with proper retrofitting of good energy-saving devices of one sort and another. So I think we really need to deal with our housing stock, our property stock, and make sure that it works so much better for us, and make sure that our bills are so much less.
Lorna.
Thank you. Yes, regarding fracking, the study that I saw was that deep down structure, our land is not suitable for fracking. I understand in America it is suitable for fracking, which is why it's a success there, but actually not in our country. And regarding global warming, I think I'd like to ask the question as to what temperature is acceptable for global warming, because we talk about climate change, which of course climate does change. Over 6,000 years, we've gone from ice age through to quite heat waves. So I would like to ask the question: what is the temperature that this Earth should actually be? And giving either side of that agreed temperature, which would be an acceptable cold period and what would be an acceptable hot period. So we can talk about climate change, but I do feel that there's not real understanding about it at this stage. Regarding energy, I believe that we have strong tides around this country, particularly, as we all know, the Severn Bore and the River Parrett. There's a strong tidal surge there. And this is something that really we should be looking at far more than we are now, rather than building nuclear power stations all the way around the country, which is what is proposed. And I agree with Tessa, the study that I've seen regarding insulation, all these things that we can do to improve the energy efficiency in our homes, it does come down to insulation at the end of the day. Thank you.
James.
Thanks, Iris. I mean, some of the things that have come up already, the government is doing. I mean, landlords will not be able to let a property with an EPC below a certain, an energy performance certificate for the property below a certain level within the next couple of years. And the policies that were in place to help people retrospectively insulate their homes, both in the able to pay and unable to pay market, didn't work brilliantly. Now, that means that they shouldn't be replaced. I've been pushing very hard for them to be replaced because I think that one of the issues that we have is that we talk about the affordability of housing purely in terms of what it costs to build, to buy or rent. Actually, I think it would be a good thing to talk about what it costs to run as well, because that is part of the wider affordability of the house that you are in. I suspect that we will see some sort of, in fact I know because I've been part of the team writing the Clean Growth Plan, which is the plan to deliver the 4th and 5th carbon budgets, which is the sort of carbon reductions that we signed up to in Paris and previous global climate conferences. There will be a replacement for the Green Deal for the able to pay market. And I think for the unable to pay market, it's just a straight up matter of sort of it being the socially just thing to do, that you intervene and insulate homes in order to bring down living costs. It makes sense, doesn't it? You know, if you've got people who are on limited incomes, perhaps because they are on welfare payments, that in order that you minimise their bills by making sure they have the most efficient heating system, most efficient lighting system, and that their home is properly insulated. As for how we do our energy mix, I believe that we do need nuclear, but I also believe that we need lots and lots of renewables too. At the moment, this country, midwinter at peak, uses about 75 to 80 gigawatts of energy. But as we seek to electrify transport through the rollout of electric vehicles, as we seek to electrify heat in order to sort of decarbonise the way we heat our homes through sort of heat pumps, we will find that the load requirement for energy increases enormously. Now, people have said that if you just do better energy efficiency, actually that increased demand for electrification of heat and transport will be offset by reductions in demand through greater energy efficiency. That's just not the case. National Grid don't say that's the case. If you look at sort of all of the studies that have been done, clearly we are going to need a significant increase in our electricity generation capacity in this country, which means that the debate is not either or. It's not nuclear and gas or renewables. It's all, and what we're aiming to do, of course, is to be able to phase out gas. The reason gas is a useful form of generation is that it's dynamic. You can ramp it up and down very easily to offset fluctuations in renewable generation. But once we've brought in digitised demand-side management, so the ability to shift load digitally within the energy system, and we've brought in energy storage, actually that dynamism offered by gas is no longer required because you can flatten the supply and demand curves of energy. Forgive me, I spent a year or so on the Energy and Climate Change Select Committee. I'm on the advisory board of the Association of Decentralised Energy. I've been helping to write the Green Conservatism project, and if I were to lose, frankly, I'd probably go into clean tech because I've become completely fascinated by it all. But I think that the energy mix that we need in the medium term is something that that has nuclear, gas, and as much renewables as we can build. Now, with renewables, there is a planning issue. We had some very high-profile planning concerns locally over onshore wind and onshore solar. Clearly, we need to make sure that those planning concerns are listened to, which is why I think the obvious renewable technology is marine, be that wave or offshore wind or tidal or hydro in some areas where that works as well. Now, I think fracking is a hot topic locally. It does seem that it comes up mainly when there are elections on, but a couple of sort of facts about fracking in this area. Firstly, what is beneath us here is the Liassic Shale. We are right on the edge of the Wessex Basin. If you go on the British Geological Survey website, you will see that what is beneath us here is pretty piecemeal. By comparison to virtually every other licence area, there's almost nothing here. There is also a nuclear power station 2.5 miles across the water, which is utterly incompatible with the fracking process. And all of the licence areas that have been held in Somerset since the licence rounds first began 7 to 10 years ago have been held by the same company. They've been held by South Western Energy. They are prospectors from South Wales. They have held every licence on the Mendix. They have not put in a single planning application, not asked to drill a single exploratory well. And all of those licences have been handed back and are now in abeyance. So when people say that there is an imminent threat of fracking, I simply say that you have been hearing that for nearly a decade, and yet not one planning application has been put in, not one exploratory well drilled. And if you go on the British Geological Survey website, you will see exactly why. There's nothing here. Now, climate, last of all. I believe absolutely that there is anthropogenic, man-made climate change. I believe absolutely that we have a responsibility and an ability to arrest it. I am hugely disappointed to see that today Donald Trump has said that he will no longer hold the United States to the conditions signed up for in the Paris Treaty. I hope that the UK will show real leadership in trying to demonstrate to Donald Trump that he's taken the wrong choice. Not just because out of a concern for climate, but because just look at the growth opportunities for clean technologies. Look at how much is being spent by China and India on installing those technologies. This is not just the right thing to do for our climate, it's a massive industrial opportunity for our country. And I hope that we can show Donald Trump that he's made the wrong choice.
Andy.
Oh, sorry, have you finished, James?
Yeah.
Oh, right. A bit of an anorak there, can I say?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You lost me a bit. I can do supply and demand curves, but yeah, some of the rest. I'm sure Theresa and Donald will be hand in hand on this one with Paris. Pulling out of Paris, I would agree, is definitely a backward step. The Labour manifesto has stated that we're looking for 60% renewables by 2030. That's obviously aspirational, but that is the kind of target that Labour is looking for. And they're also bringing in a Clean Air Act. That may not be particularly relevant to you, as I seem to remember the breeze off the Burnham seafront is quite considerable. But for other areas and thinking in the bigger picture, as we obviously have to, I think it's very important because certainly in towns and cities, if people cannot actually breathe clean air, and imagine for children, that is an extremely dangerous position to be in and puts people at real risk. So I think that's an important move. And I was talking earlier today to a housing association who, when I spoke to them before, were doing some quite innovative work around their new developments, and they were looking to put in heat pumps into them wherever they possibly could. And they were actually thinking that they wouldn't need electricity or gas as the main heating source. And I asked about how that was going, and it seems that it's actually gone altogether as a policy. They say that there's no longer the support and the grants to go with it, and that is obviously very much a backward step. I'm sure James will be able to tell us that that wouldn't be the case. But
The RHI
he's already got.
It's not been cut.
Okay, it's not been cut, everybody. We'll believe him.
It's true.
Okay. You passed the job interview, James, for the consultant on climate, so that's good. And I think that's the most important thing, and that we would also ban fracking. Clearly, it's not something that we support. I think you've probably heard enough on the subject. Can we perhaps move on?
Well, absolutely. I think we've had some full answers there. So now we're going to move on.